Yo, what up, what up, what up? Welcome to the latest and greatest edition of the Talk of the Town Unfiltered Show. Thank y'all.
You almost said morning show. I heard it.
Almost.
Ding,
I'm still,
ding.
oh, I forgot the bell again. I'm gonna grab the bell at some point. But welcome to the Talk of the Town Unfiltered Show. Appreciate y'all tapping in with us. You know me, Showtime, Mr. Talk of the Town. And we are here to do what we do on Thursday nights at 8 o'clock. We get this thing popping. We get it live. We get it lit. I'm going to let my co-hosts go ahead and introduce themselves, starting with the young lady to, I guess, for y'all, she can be to your left, but to me, she's to my right. R. Jizzle, what's popping?
Gang.
Oh, you have multicolored nails today. That's different.
I do.
Oh, are they press-ons?
No, they're my nails.
I
just painted them out. I just painted them.
So you went out, is what you're saying?
I just painted them.
You did that yourself?
I did.
Okay.
If I put them close to the screen, you would see how they look like a 5-year-old did them. They look good back here.
Right. They look good.
Glam baby do them for you.
Right.
Okay. All right. D. Marie up in this thing. D. Marie, what's popping?
You know, what's going on, y'all?
With your Spellman shirt on. I see you.
Spellman-ish.
All right.
Representing,
Representing. DJ Green up in here. Green, what it look like?
I've just been chilling. Had a long day. It was hot outside.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I gotta work outside.
It was hot here too.
Yeah, it's been hot everywhere in more ways than one. So this edition of the Talk of the Town Unfiltered, I think as a collective, we came together and we just decided that it wouldn't be right if we did this week's episode without acknowledging and talking about all of the things that have been going on in the country that are stemming from, I guess we could say it's stemming from the murder of George Floyd. But, you know, we all know that these are things that have been brewing and going on for a long time. So this episode of the Talk of the Town Unfiltered is going to be dedicated to just the social changes that we've been seeing, the uprises that we've been seeing. We've got some guests that are going to chime in with us, to chop it up with us. So we wanted to be sure that we weren't absent in this moment, because I feel like people need to hear our voices and hear what we have to say about what's going on. And there's just a lot going on that's affecting not just us, but a lot that's going to affect generations to come. So we wanted to make sure that we did our part in just kind of letting our voices be heard and letting people know what it is that we feel about this situation. It's a very tragic situation. So we're going to dive into some things. So first and foremost, I'll ask y'all, how are things, because we're all in different locations, how are things where y'all have been? RG, you're in Atlanta,
right?
In the Atlanta area. Y'all are both in the Atlanta area. Mm-hmm. In Virginia, of course, I'm in the RDU, Raleigh, Durham, which popping. So RG, how are things down in the A? Like, how are things for y'all? I'll go to you and D. Marie first.
It is crazy out here. Like, just like they're doing in other places. The looting.
Hi, Mom.
Aw. Hi, D. Marie, Mom.
Hey.
We told her that she can't act too ratchet tonight. So
right.
Your mom's looking, D. Marie, so you have to be on your best. Okay, RG.
Yeah, but I mean, it's crazy. I mean, the protesters are protesting, the looters are looting, and it's crazy out here.
Is there still a curfew in Georgia?
It is.
Mm-hmm.
How long is the curfew going to last? How long are they saying how long it's going to last?
I'm not sure, because she just keeps extending it. Every
right.
day it's like we've extended it.
Mm-hmm. There hasn't been a time limit yet. It just seems like every night around 8:15, 8:30-ish, then we get
the bell.
Wow.
Ding, 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 ding.
8:30-ish. Around 8:30, we get the notification, but yeah, they're still out there. Like, I just was receiving some pictures. I have a family member that's Capitol Police, and lots of things are burned down. They're still out there. Protesting is still going on. COVID-19 is still going on.
It's still going on. They seem to have forgotten. It's still going on.
Yeah, COVID-19 is still going on, and I think it's important that we understand what are going to be some of the repercussions that we could see in terms of COVID-19, because of course it's practically impossible to social distance when you're in that climate of protesting and things like that. My fear is that we see like an influx of COVID-19 cases that come, and then we're in a whole different situation. You know what I mean? So Green, what about in VA? How things been there?
Well, we got a curfew at 8:00, which is dumb early.
Well, it's a curfew.
They was wilding out on Oceanfront on Monday.
They have a midnight curfew? Like what?
I mean, better than LA. LA is 5:00.
What time?
5:00.
Wow.
That's ridiculous.
LA County.
Wow.
That's ridiculous. God.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
but they was tearing up the Oceanfront on Monday, so that's why.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, they was throwing trash cans through glass the whole nine.
Yeah, I saw a huge protest going on down on the oceanfront just through Facebook Live, and people were getting it. They were getting it popping. They were really, really getting it popping. So I don't know how
Richmond was too. Richmond has been going
Richmond
got in VA.
Richmond got it shaken, and even in Raleigh, we have had a curfew for the last probably all week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
were they wilding out there?
Yeah, they get it popping. Like they getting it popping out here, like early. Like
wow.
all last weekend downtown, and I happened to be driving to pick my daughter up from work, and 3 cop cars just flew past me. Pew, pew, pew.
Wow.
So I said, well, let me hop on the police scanner real quick and let me listen out to see what they listening to, because I hop on the scanner quick. So I get on the scanner to figure out.
I need to start doing that.
Hop on the scanner.
So I get on the app, and you can hear like the officers talking to the dispatch, saying they got us surrounded. They're kicking in the windows of our cars. We're surrounded. We need to back up.
What?
We got to be jumping during these times.
And this was Saturday, so this was early Saturday. So this was during the day, as a matter of fact. It was still light outside. So we hadn't even gone dark yet. So I'm pretty sure that downtown Raleigh is. I haven't been down there, but downtown Raleigh is probably torn up. But this is just the time that we're in, and that's why I think it's important that we have
this discussion. And
today, of course, was the memorial for George Floyd. I didn't watch it. I know y'all watched it. RJ, you were saying that Al Sharpton said some things that were real clutch. What type of things? Definitely nosy, Chanda. What type of things were the Al Sharpton say?
Well, he made this reference. He said that growing up, he had roaches, and he learned early on that the roaches come around in the dark, but once you shine that light on the roaches, then they scatter. You bring light to it, and I just thought that was just so powerful. How he is using that as what we're doing now. We're bringing light to what is going on, today.
Right.
After George Floyd.
Right.
And what has happened for so many years. What's done in the darkness comes to light. That is
right. It was real powerful.
And I think it's important that we realize that, this is just like an awakening. Like, I told people that, what we're seeing now, this is not something that is just happening because of George Floyd. Like these are things that have been underlying in the belly of this country for years and years and years. And now it's just starting to come up because people are tired. So
the breaking point.
It's the breaking point, right, Green? So
exactly.
We actually have a guest that we're going to bring on, and I'm going to bring our guest on so we can actually dig a little bit deeper into this conversation. I want to bring on my girl, Dr. Zoe Spencer. Dr. Zoe, what's poppin'?
Welcome,
hey.
Dr. Zoe.
Thank you, y'all. Thank you.
Appreciate you joining us. Now, Dr. Zoe is a daughter of the struggle. She's also a sociology professor at the illustrious, give me a bell, Virginia State University. So
we'll let that slide for today. Spartan love over here, Norfolk State University.
Right.
I had family.
Why you have to do the robot though?
So it's all love, and I'm from Richmond, so it's all love.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Dr. Zoe, thank you for joining us. So we want to kind of dive into this conversation with you, so we can kind of let people, kind of hear from another voice. Like that was important for us to let someone come on to the show and have some folks in this conversation other than us. So we can kind of talk about some things that are important to us, because we're in a time frame now, in a climate where things are changing, and they're changing at a rapid pace. So I think this is an important discussion that we have. So before we dive into questions, is it anything that you want to say as an introduction to the folks who are watching us on this live tonight?
I think I would like to say, I guess as an OG, like I'm really, really excited and so proud of the young generation who is really, really stepping up with such a high degree of consciousness, a high degree of direction. I think, I hear people say, well, there are all of these kind of moving parts and there's no organization. But I think that it is so important, the work that the youth, the young people are doing in this movement to invoke a systemic change and understanding the historic root of oppression is absolutely magnificent to me. So I just want to start by saying that I am really, really proud of the young people who are leading this real kind of revolutionary movement, this transformative movement. So that's where I would be. And I want to give my applause to all of you guys for the work that, you all are doing in this moment, because this is a really pivotal moment in history.
It definitely is.
So let me ask this. There's an old saying by a song by Gil Scott-Heron that says the revolution will not be televised, right? And of course, when he made that song, it was in a time frame prior to live streaming and prior to social media and prior to the things that we have access to now. Do you think, Dr. Z, are we watching the revolution play out in front of our eyes?
I think so. I don't know if we'll have a revolution, but this resistance moment, this transformative moment, this moment of radical reform. I will say, because this is definitely a revolutionary moment politically, economically, productively. I would say absolutely, we are watching it, and I think Audre Lorde had a quote, and her quote is, "The master's tools will not dismantle the master's house."
Yes.
And I think the revolutionary moment, even dealing with the media, is the fact that the media has taken this real shift. I mean, if you look at protests in the past with Mike Brown, Tamir Rice, Trayvon, the media was really hostile to the Black Lives Matter movement. And so you do see kind of like this revolutionary shift, even the way the mainstream media is representing the movement at this point. And we're seeing the revolution happen before our eyes. And I'm hoping that the momentum stays put and that people stay grounded in understanding the root of oppression, so that as we begin to put that pressure on the system to change, we can dig up that little ill cancer root of racism and white supremacy and, throw it somewhere else.
Yeah. Go ahead, Archie. Go ahead.
What do you think? Why do you think it was George Floyd incident that made this happen? What was it that triggered this? Because other countries are protesting as well, not just us here. So what do you think made it all, just crumble from the George Floyd incident?
You know what? That's a question that I have been pondering, with people for a while. And I actually, I came up with an answer today. I think that it was a culmination of things, actually. I think that the government put something in place, and it really didn't have an idea of the way that it handled COVID, and us, one, not working, us being confined to the house, the way that people were feeling internally about that confinement. I call it my mandatory detention. And I think, one, that was the first precursor, because I think that really set the foundation to be able to do this work in mass, because we don't have anywhere to go. Two, I think that it was the fact that it wasn't just George Floyd. You had Ahmaud Arbery, you had Breonna Taylor, and then you had George Floyd, like back to back. Yeah, like back to back to back. And I think that, people were looking for a reason to challenge the lockdown and a purpose. And I think that George Floyd's death and the manner of his death, that brutal manner of watching him die a slow death. And I didn't watch it. I refused to watch the videos. But I saw the photo, the still photo. I think that his death and the way that they murdered him was so symbolic of the history of lynching in America that nobody could deny it. The white people, you know, the white allies couldn't deny it. Even the white resistors to BLM couldn't deny it. Nobody could deny the brutality. And I think that it was just a culmination of seasonings that created the foundation to allow this to happen. And it is the most magnificent thing that I have seen. And I've been outside many times. I can't go outside now because I hurt my leg, but I've been outside many times, and just watching this is probably the most magnificent form of resistance that I've ever seen.
So Dr. Z, you talked about young people earlier, and my concern with the young people being at the forefront of this movement is that when you look at the way that the media is kind of twisting things, and there's a difference between the young folks who are at the head, and then you have like the agitators who are trying to agitate the situation and kind of throw gasoline on the flames in a way that's not necessarily productive. What words of wisdom or what words of advice, as someone who is an OG, would you have for the young folks who are involved in this struggle, who are standing up, who say, okay, I see this is not the way it's supposed to happen, but they may not necessarily know how to respond when faced with those agitators, whether it be on the front lines, whether it be on social media, whether it be in their classrooms when they go back to school.
Right.
What words do you have for those young people? Because they're going to be the ones who keep this fight going long after we're gone. So they're going to need the strategies a little bit better than we are, right? Because they're going to they're in for the long fight. They got 30, 40, 50 years to go. What can you give them to hold on to just as a piece to take with them while they're fighting this fight?
So in the past, I've done revolutionary teachings with my young revolutionaries, and I actually I've been posting a lot on Facebook. The first thing that you have to understand is that I would tell the youth to understand that COINTELPRO, and if you're outside and you don't know what COINTELPRO, which is the counterintelligence program of the FBI. If you go outside and you protest and you don't know COINTELPRO, you got to study before you go outside. COINTELPRO and the FBI, the United States government, has a history and a pattern. If you study back to the civil rights movement, and even before then, they have a history and a pattern of planting agents. And so, in the past, the state and the media have worked together to destabilize movement. So what you'll find is, and since I haven't been outside, I've been studying because my babies are outside. So I've been studying and trying to keep abreast. But if you see things, what I call the skateboard destroyers, the young white people that are breaking police car windows with the skateboard. And then you see these random abandoned police cars in the middle of nowhere and bricks in the middle of nowhere, and all of these things, and then you see that the looting happens at night when nobody's outside. Well, I'm going to say it publicly because it is a fact. They want to blame Antifa because Antifa is a convenient scapegoat, but a lot of times that is the state, the FBI, who plants provocateurs inside of movement to do exactly what they did in front of the media, so that the media can take that, and what it does is it disrupts the fluidity and the message of the movement. So 9 times out of 10, when you see it, you will see somebody, I call them co-opters, and you will see somebody who's outside, and then they'll throw the brick because they understand groupthink and they understand group dynamics. They throw the brick, break the window, and then they'll say, okay, follow. And if you're not conscious enough to understand what it is, then the group will follow in that direction. What I've advised my babies to do is that when you see it, when you see somebody antagonizing and you see somebody who is running counter. And it could be throwing a brick, or it could be coming in the middle of a protest and spewing some contradictory words that are going to antagonize the crowd, and then people turn around and they want to address them, and so it becomes an argument as a distraction, and then the design is for the argument to erupt into violence. And so, you know, when you're on the street, you got to video them and you got to call them out. You have to video them and you have to call them out. You have to maintain control over what your message and what your narrative is in the street, and you can't allow people to infiltrate your movement and your resistance with their shenanigans. You got to understand that they're government agents. Anytime you go outside, the FBI is going to have their agent provocateurs outside with you in mass to disrupt your movement. And what I have loved about this is that I think that there may have been some OGs, you know, in the other than me around, who were enlightening the youth who were outside, because what I saw is I saw this video, and I'm from DC, I'm from Berry Farm, so don't the doctor stuff. So I saw this young man in DC. There was a video of him telling the agents, don't fuel the fire. Stop fueling the fire. Like, where are you from? You go home, but we have to live here. Stop fueling the fire. And I have seen countless videos where the youth are actually disrupting the disruptors and calling them out and running them away. And that's what you have to do. That's what you have to do.
And there was actual videos and pictures I saw where you would see folks out there with headsets in. So it's like, what are you doing? Like a hat on, a headset, and talking into something. Like,
and some of them though will look just like us.
Right.
Some of them will look just like us. Trust me,
and
they
Dr.
look just like us.
Dr.
So
I think you make a great point. Like, we have to realize that there's nothing new under the sun, right? So, you know, for those who don't know, like, COINTELPRO was something that was responsible for the destruction to a degree of the Black Panther Party. Like, if you look at the move bombings in Philly in the 70s, if you look at what happened with the Assata Shakur in the 70s, if you look at Mumia Abu Jamal still being locked up in jail for a crime he didn't commit, like, those are all things that are related to COINTELPRO, like, which have been going on for 30 years. You know what I mean? And if you look deeper into, like, okay, well, there were audio recordings of Martin Luther King doing things that might be considered outside of his marriage, allegedly. Those were all things that were set up by people who, like you said, look like us, right? Right? There was somebody in Martin's camp who was recording him doing things so that the FBI and J. Edgar Hoover could use those things to turn us against him. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I'm glad you said that, because that lets us know that these things have been going on, but we have to be cognizant of these things that are happening in this movement.
Now,
don't let anybody
go ahead.
I'm sorry, and don't let anybody tell you it's a conspiracy theory. It's well documented in the literature. And they run the same blueprint, and they'll keep running the same blueprint until you change your offense. They're going to keep running the same defense.
Yeah, they run the same play.
Is there anything else folks need to know before they decide, okay, I want to organize, I want to do something, I want to go out there? What else is going to help people stay safe? What else is going to help them just be alert and be aware? All of the things you talked about are great points. Is there anything else you've noticed that, okay, we got to get that straight? Like, do this, don't do that.
So if you're going to engage in resistance when the National Guard, they're going to come to my house and come and get me.
No, don't say that.
No, they already surveil me. It's okay. So if you're going to go outside and you're going to resist, when the National Guard is outside, I want you to understand that before you go outside, they already have a net around you. And I call it netting. I'm sure they have a different term for it, but when you are protesting, there's a certain route that protesters take. And the way that the city sets up the barricades and the gates and stuff to herd you in a certain direction. And so you have to understand that even though you're outside exercising your First Amendment right, the government is already trying to direct you. And so when they invoke the National Guard, or when they start invoking police into a protest, you have to understand that they've already established a perimeter around where you're protesting before you even go outside. That's number one. if they invoke a curfew and you decide that you're going to break curfew, you have to be strategic about how you're going to get out, because they already have the perimeter set up. And oftentimes what they'll do is they'll wait for you to break curfew, and then they'll come out from all areas and they'll close you in for the purpose of either assaulting you or locking you up. And so you have to understand the militarized strategies that they use when they get ready to invoke the military or the National Guard or policing to quote unquote control protests. And so you just have to be wise about it. You should know your area. If you're going to breach curfew and you're going to resist, you should know your area. You should know the escape routes to your area. You should put your vehicle in a very strategic place. You need to have supplies if you're going to resist. You need to make sure that you have the supplies that you need to resist, like milk and water and rags and goggles. If you have a gas mask and things like that, so that you can protect your health and safety. You need to have numbers on your hands. And if you do get caught up, you need to let somebody know. I call it the Sandra Bland protocol. You need to let people know where you are. If you feel like you're in danger, you need to make sure that you call out loud. I am Zoe Spencer. For anybody who is recording you, I am Zoe Spencer. I need for you to call my so-and-so. The number is blah, 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 blah. So that and I'm being detained by, if you're in DC Metropolitan Police Department or Richmond Police Department or whatever, just call out as much information as you can, so that those of us who are on the outside can make sure that we protect you. In the past, when we've had people get scooped up, in the past, when we've had people get scooped up, what we do is that we'll then bombard the police department where they take our people, so that we can let them know that we know where our people are. And then we'll call the media in to go where our people are being detained, to make sure that our people are safe. And that was back in 2015 with the Mike Brown, BLM, beginning of that BLM era. Now I think it's kind of a different shift, because I think that there are more people, there's a more diverse crowd. Most of the protesters outside are white Americans. And so there's a different handling that, people's, their children are outside. So I think that, the danger that others suffered or faced back in Baltimore with Freddie Gray, or in Ferguson with the grassroots protesters who are now dead who have been assassinated, right? And then you also have to understand that whatever you post, they're watching you, and once you get labeled, they're going to be watching you. And so you have to understand that. And once you become an activist, and once you go outside, I call it going outside, you have to understand that you probably will be on the list, and you have to move very wisely.
Yeah,
that's good information.
Deemer, you got another question?
I want to go to this question that's in the live comments. I think this is a good question for Dr. Z to kind of address.
Which is it, from Lee Grant?
Yeah.
So the question says, what are we really doing? Do y'all know reaction without a plan is very, very dangerous? And oftentimes we see so many folks stepping out here without a plan. You know what I mean? So I think Dr. Z, and you can speak to it, like how important it is to actually strategize, and not just in forms of protesting, but just strategizing about what our next move is after this, because these protests aren't going to last forever. Like, this isn't going to be a forever thing. We have to do a better job of planning for what the next phase is. And we'll talk about that in the next couple of questions. But Dr. Z, what do you think about planning for the next phase for us?
Revolution is never planned. Listen, that is a noble goal, but revolution is never planned. Revolutionary action, resistance is always reactionary, unfortunately. And I think, the it's almost virtually impossible for the nation to organize this kind of uniform and fluid movement. And so you have different movements that are popping up. Like if you look at the map of protests right now, there are protests going on in almost every state across the United States. Mm-hmm. And I have to give the young people credit. Like, and because I'm not outside, I have an opportunity to watch. The demands that are being made for police reform, criminal justice reform, and even moving into education, healthcare, etc. The demands that are being made right now, and the understanding that the history of white supremacy and state-sponsored violence is at the root of race relations in America. I am watching young people demand that these real, tangible, historic phenomena be recognized and acknowledged. And then I'm watching them systematically talk about what needs to happen in order to be able to protect Black life. Mm-hmm. And, some of the things that, in my own space, I have some meetings tomorrow in my own space. Some of the things that, I feel need to be demanded in order to protect our people from this type of thing, I see the protesters demanding. And so you have the masses of people who many are reactionary, but then you do have the ideological base. The ideological base is the understanding of, what is the cause of the problem? In the past, once the officers got arrested, everybody went in the house. This time, everybody understands that no, it's not just about George Floyd. George Floyd is the catalyst for the movement, but it is about the systemic and historic white supremacist oppression, discrimination, racism, and state-sponsored violence against Black people that has been going on, that is the cause and the root of the problem. And so people are now seeking these systemic transformations of these oppressive systems. And so I would disagree. I think that there is a plan and that the young people are asking for some real radical reformations and transformations of these systems. And because the pressure of the masses are on both the pressure of possible violent resistance and peaceful resistance is on the government. And I want people to understand, listen, everybody pulls out Martin Luther King, and I'm talking and then I'm gonna shut up. But everybody pulls out Martin Luther King. But no, I want people to understand this is a historic fact. The only reason the government gave Martin Luther King a platform was because the Deacons for Defense, the Black Liberation Army, the Black Panther Party, and other radical violent resistance movements were flanking him. Okay, they didn't just give him the platform, the media platform because he was peaceful. They had a choice. Either you suffer a civil war or you do what the people need you to do. Wow. Martin Luther King was the voice of that peaceful resistance, but Martin Luther King was being flanked by the threat of civil war resistance, and that's why they gave him a platform. So, I think that at this very critical moment, all of the factors are working together in order to get the powers that be, the systems of oppression, to take a look and say, hold on a second, this one is a little more serious, and maybe we need to really, really look at systemic change if we want to avoid a civil war in this country.
So let's talk about this. You invoke Martin. How do you think this struggle compares to the struggle of the civil rights movement?
That was my question. BLM versus civil rights.
Right. Aside from us being able to see this thing play out and us being able to watch this thing play out second by second because of social media, what in your eyes are the differences between the two?
Well, I think that one of the fundamental differences is that then we were fighting for inclusion and this concept of equality, right? And so in that era, we were still dealing with segregation. And So people were fighting to be included. I think after the Civil Rights Act was passed, it's like, okay, well, we're all included now, and we have this measure of inclusion into the Constitution, and all of these different laws that were being passed that gave us opportunities that we didn't have before, kind of made us forget that we may have had freedom and we may have had a level of equality, but we didn't have equity.
Okay.
The movements themselves now, it's like realizing that after all of this time, even though we are included in the Constitution, getting the people or the state to recognize our constitutional protections is different. So now it's like, hold on a second, we're symbolically included, but we're watching our constitutional protections be dismantled. And so you think, and if you think about it, you can see that there is a direct parallel between then and now, because then there was Martin Luther King, and then there was the Black Panther Party, the Black Liberation Army, Deacons for Defense, and SNCC, and all of these different organizations. And here, even though we're not quote unquote organized the way we were, there's still this peaceful, you can either get the peaceful protest or you can get the burn shit down protest. Right. Which one do you want? And so the government is facing that same situation now that it was facing then. And most importantly to international relations is that equally back then as it is now, the United States government was trying to promote this concept of democracy, and democracy is freedom and equality. One of the reasons why they passed the Civil Rights Act is because they were trying to expand democracy in their global colonialist and imperialist regime. And all of the other countries were saying, well, how are you talking about freedom and equality in other countries, and you're going to promote freedom and equality and democracy in other countries? Look at the condition of race relations in your own country. Look at the way that you treat African Americans. And that was one of the principal reasons why they put forth that Civil Rights Act. Now is the same thing. You have other countries who are looking at the conditions of African Americans in America, and they're saying that you cannot call yourself a democracy while you have this brutality going on against African American citizens. And so if you look at the history, it's almost the same. It's almost the same.
Yeah. And I can definitely see that parallel when you brought up SNCC, and we look at students. I can see it with the students that I work with at Spelman. We see it at students across, everywhere, even with the Spelman and Morehouse student, with what happened with them, with the police officers here in Atlanta, Georgia. Students are out here and they are using their voice. And in particular, the students I work with, students who may face circumstances of sexual assault, dating and domestic violence, stalking, they're using their voice and they're out here. So I can definitely see that parallel and kind of echo that with what you're saying, that there are some similarities with what was in to what is now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Dr. Z, you touched on the political aspect of things a little bit. So I want to tiptoe just a little bit into politics. We see now that there's some politicians who are getting behind the Black Lives Matter movement here in North Carolina. Our governor, Roy Cooper, he tweeted something where he said Black Lives Matter. I can't remember the exact phrase, but he's a
Republican or Democrat?
He's a Democrat. He said something and he ended with, "I know that Black Lives Matter." In Virginia, I think Northern he pulled the statue down, the Confederate statue.
Yeah.
Today did that come down today?
I don't know if it came that, but it's gonna come down.
LeVar Stoney, we gonna leave him out of this conversation, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna come down one way or another. Either they're gonna pull it down, or we're gonna bring it down. So either way,
it's coming down.
Yeah. It's coming down. So Dr. Z, we hear a lot about the Black agenda, right? Particularly when it comes to Vice President Biden. Folks say that Biden needs to have a Black agenda in order to get the Black vote. I'll ask you this: do you think that the Black agenda should be the most important thing, or do you think getting Donald John Trump out of office should be the most important thing, or are the two parallel?
That's a good question.
Listen, let me talk about Trump, because I usually very rarely watch MSNBC. I very rarely watch MSNBC, and I watched his press conference when he invoked a military state on the United States. And I posted on Facebook that I revoke my consent to be governed by Donald Trump and this government. Donald Trump is a danger and a threat to democracy. And he has got to go. Period. I'm saying it. He's got to go. I think the Black agenda and calling it the Black agenda, I think that Black people, we need to hold these politicians accountable, be they Democratic or Republican officials accountable for considering us the American citizens that we are, and for representing our interests with the same strength and fervor that they represent other people's interests. And of course, we have a unique set of racial needs. Our needs are not homogenous, though, but, because Black people, we're not this homogenous group of people that we have various needs depending on where we are, but we have a unique set of needs that need to be addressed. And the first need is equity. The second need is a real semblance of freedom and protection under our Constitution. And we just need to start holding these people responsible for representing our interests. And we need to get out of this kind of partisan politic where, if you're Black, you have to vote Democratic or whatever. Whether a politician is Democrat or Republican, Black people are also American citizens, and we need to be treated as American citizens with the same rights and protection as everybody else. And if we find that people are not representing our interests, we have to get strong about saying that if you're not going to represent first of all, and I'm very clear at this point, don't tax me. I'm not going to pay for my own oppression and genocide. I'm done with that. So don't tax me and then use my tax dollars to fund the military that you send in to come and tear gas my people when they're protesting.
Right.
Come on, man. So I think revolutionarily, I think that we have to hold these politicians accountable for representing our interests, and where they do not represent our interests, we have to shut stuff down.
Yeah, good point.
Democrats and Republicans,
everybody. So let me ask you this before, Deemer, I'll throw it to you real quick. So do you think there is a need? I don't even want to say a need. Do you think the likelihood of there being a political party that speaks solely to the interest of Black folks is something that we could possibly, and I don't even want to say solely to the interest of Black folks.
It can be
solely to the interest of minorities and folks who have been marginalized throughout the course of history in our society, or even towards poor people, or whoever the case may be, the underserved. Do you think there is a possibility of us seeing or needing another political party outside of what we actually have? And is it possible, is it tangible for that political party to have a real chance of winning this fight?
So I go back to Audre Lorde's quote, "The master's tools will not dismantle the master's house," because there are probably about 20 additional political parties, and there have been other political candidates who understand the need to ensure that marginalized people, no matter what their social construct, are included and protected. But we don't get to see them. It's like hip hop. It's like the real hip hop, very underground. Like, all you get to see are the artists that they want you to see. If you want to find a real conscious, rapper artist, you got to kind of dig in and find them, underneath of the dirt that the mainstream piles on them, so that we don't get a chance to see them. I mean, I think that we exist in the fallacy of a two-party political system, because that's all the media shows. So there are and have been candidates, and I can say that I have made the mistake in the past of voting for the candidate that I thought, would best represent the needs of marginalized groups. And, they didn't win, and everybody was mad at me for voting for them, because they're like, well, if you're voting for them, then, you're letting the Donald Trumps in office. But I think that we need to start doing more research about who's actually running, and not allow the media to hurt us into choosing between the lesser of two evils when there are other people who will represent not just the interest of Black people, because I can't be a reverse oppressor either. Like, I don't want somebody to just represent my interest and then say, forget about everybody else. What I need and what we need somebody who is going to come in and make sure that the interests of all American people are represented equally, right? And where we don't find that in the Democrats and or the Republicans, then we have to start demanding that the other candidates be given a voice so that people will have that opportunity to vote for them.
Right.
Good point. DeMarie?
Once the dust settles, right? Once the protests are over, or even in the midst of it right now, what do folks need to be focusing on? What needs to happen next?
What needs to happen, sister, is that we need to dismantle the historic and systemic roots of white supremacy. We need to eradicate white supremacy out of our criminal justice system. We need to eradicate white supremacy out of our political system. We need to eradicate white supremacy out of our healthcare system, out of our education system, out of our economic system, out of our religious system. We need to eradicate white supremacy, period. Because white supremacy is a fallacy that creates victims in both the perpetrator and the victim, right? Once we start nobody after enslavement and after the Emancipation Proclamation, nobody went back and wrote the book, rewrote the narrative about who Black people are, where we come from, what our power is, what our melanin represents. And so society has this disregard for Black life. Right. And I think that until we eradicate the vestiges of white supremacy and the way that white supremacy is ingrained in every single institution, that we're going to continue to see problems like this. Be it police brutality, be it the kid that goes from the school to prison pipeline in pre-K through 12, whatever it is. And so I think that is the main thing that we need to focus on. And, we need to start taking shit. Like I'm sorry to curse, but we need to start taking shit. Like, we need to stop asking people to value our lives. One of the things that I'm going to be talking about tomorrow with one of our senators is an anti-lynching law. I'm angry because I'm tired of us standing around videotaping while our Black people die. I need to be able to know that if I see a police officer choking with their knee on somebody's neck or choking somebody, that after I give them a warning that they're killing somebody, I need to be able to jump on their back or do something to get them off my people. That's what I need. Okay. Because this is lynching, and they don't get a pass just because they're wearing a badge and a uniform. They shouldn't get a pass to be able to murder without any kind of reaction, not just a videotape reaction, but a physical reaction. And so we have to start taking back and being unapologetic in our Blackness, right? So that's what I think.
Just dismantling, like, give me one instance of what dismantling would look like for folks out there that are wondering, like, I hear what you're saying, I want to do that. Tell me what exactly I need to do.
So dismantling, I would say an example would be in pre-K through 12. Like, that's one. Okay. And I would say, 80% of the teachers are white teachers, but they're Black people who don't know ourselves either. So a part of the dismantling of white supremacy is invoking a true history in our PK through 12 system so that both Black children, Asians, Latinx children, and white children truly understand who Black people are. Our history does not begin with enslavement, and enslavement wasn't this passive institution of some inferior people. We built this country, and they deliberately chose us from Africa because they understood that Africa is not this savage land where we were running around uncivilized and savage until the Europeans came and saved us when they put us on the boat and brought us here to labor under Europeans. That's not who we were. Like, we come from kings and queens and philosophers and scientists and astronomers and, physicians and everything. And I think the one part of dismantling white supremacy is eradicating it from our educational system. and then recognizing that it exists in the minds of people who run every single system that we have to deal with, and bringing competent people into those systems who understand and respect who we are.
When you say the educational system, like new textbooks,
absolutely,
whole new curriculum. Okay,
and new textbooks, and in college, when the white ladies are going to get educated at James Madison or University of Georgia, they need to be taking some classes in cultural competency so that they understand the reward and who our children really are, right? Because what's happening is our children are being psychologically destroyed in the PK through 12 system by white female teachers who don't believe in the inherent brilliance of our kids. So it has to start with the textbooks, the curriculum, but it also has to start with training our teachers, training our police officers, training our politicians, not superficially, but getting them to acknowledge that we're just as good.
Right. And you know, I do a lot of work with teachers and working with teachers and helping them understand the importance of cultural competency. And you know, like you said, I think it begins with the pedagogy of those teachers. Like it begins with what those teachers are telling their students and how they're teaching, because we learn differently than people who don't come from the same environment. So one of the things that I tell them is that all teachers at this point, if you're teaching in a Title I school or a school that's in an area that's predominantly African-American, you have to have some form of pedagogy that's based on hip hop and popular culture. I don't care what it is. And even if you go into things like doing call and response in the classroom, like those are things that can be used, because Black folks, we respond to call and response, right? And we learn, everybody knows if I say hip hop array, everybody on this thing is going to say, hey, ho, right? That's nothing but call and response. So those are the things that need to be implemented in the classroom to speak to our children, because that's how they learn. Like that's the things that they're learning and how they're learning. And I think, like you said, if you are a 80-year-old, 57-year-old, 60-year-old white person, and you're trying to teach a 15-year-old Black child, but you have no leeway, or you're not even trying to learn where this child comes from, what their background is, what their family history is, how they learn differently than kids learned 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, then you're already doing that child a disservice.
I think too, to add to that though, to take it a step deeper, even before you get to the methods and the styles of learning, the most important thing is that if you hate Black people, inherently hate Black people, or you have a disregard for Black life, no matter, and you don't recognize your bias, and you do not believe in the inherent brilliance of a Black child, you cannot teach a Black child. It won't matter what kind of pedagogy you use. If you don't believe in the inherent brilliance of Black children, you won't be able to teach Black children.
Right. And, you know, one of the things that I posted this on Facebook earlier today, and you know, I said, while we're here, like, let's talk about the fact that we've been, as children growing up, for us, you know, me in the 80s and the 90s, like we were forced to say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning at school. Like that's something that honestly, as an adult, I didn't even think of until a couple of years ago. And I asked my daughter when she was probably in middle school, and I said, y'all still do the Pledge of Allegiance? Like, is that still a thing? Like, I didn't know it was still a thing. And she said, yeah. So I said,
what about singing the Star Spangled Banner? We had to sing that.
In school? You did?
After we did the Pledge of Allegiance.
Jeez, Louise. What school was that?
Right.
Lindenwood.
Gosh,
and Norfolk.
Right. So, you know, I think we've all been indoctrinated and trained with these ideologies since childhood, right? So I told my daughter, I was like, you don't have to say that. Like,
and imagine if we were indoctrinated. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, DJ.
No, in the second grade, there was this girl, and she refused to do it. And I never understood. Now I do, but I never understood, like, why she don't got to say it? Because everyone else had to say it. You know what I'm saying? But obviously, her parents sent a note in.
Right.
Said, my daughter ain't doing it.
You're not with it. Like,
she had to do it. You never had to do it.
And she was proud to sit there. I'm not doing it.
And I'm talking second grade, and that's the only thing I remember. I don't remember the teacher name. Right. I don't remember nothing. I remember that.
She's sitting there like Michael from Good Time with the black fist up. Right. Like
right.
Imagine if, because it is a form of indoctrination. That's how you create patriotism. Imagine if you did the same thing about Black and African culture and where we come from, right? Imagine if you did the same thing about Indigenous culture and where they truly come from. Imagine if you did the same about Latinx culture and where they come from, and you infuse that in the same manner that you infuse the Star Spangled Banner and the Pledge of Allegiance. Then the children would grow up with a sense of respect and understanding for each other, and white supremacy would be dismantled. Thus, white privilege would be dismantled, and then you could create a whole generation of people who have a mutual respect for each other. So then, when they get into these positions where they're running institutions, institutional racism would be eradicated.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to like Dee Marie's question was, how do we end it? Like, what's the strategy? And I think that's it. Like, we have to do a better job, number one, of teaching our young people. And Dr. Z, I think you're doing a great job. We have to do a better job of teaching our young people and preparing them. I was talking to my wife the other day, and I said, my daughter turns 16 tomorrow, which that sounds crazy to even say that, but she turns 16 tomorrow, and as a birthday gift, I'm going to get her, the stuff that I'm going to get her. But one of the things that I'm going to do is introduce her to the autobiography of Assata Shakur. That's a book that I read when I was in my 20s. And as my wife and I were talking about it, we just kind of talked about the fact that we weren't introduced to these things when we were teenagers. We didn't have these opportunities to talk about these things or read this literature because this isn't something that was taught in school. It isn't something that is taught, growing up. Like, all of us went to school in the state of Virginia. Like, none of our public school systems. I went to private school up until high school. And I
took ethnic studies in high school.
You better have.
Wow.
What okay.
Yeah. So, and I also said this on Facebook. I was fortunate enough, the private school. Rich Girl, did you not go to St. Mary's, Rich Girl, or you did?
I did.
You did. Okay. So did they do the Black Pledge when you were there? I can't remember.
That was like, what, 70 years ago? I have
I forget. No. 65, but so one of the things that we had to do every morning after we did the Pledge of Allegiance, we did the Black Pledge. And one of my Facebook friends, her name is Cerise, she still remembers the pledge to this day.
I need to hear it. I've never heard it.
Me too.
Me neither.
I'll post. I can never remember it. My friend Cerise Logan, she's probably checking it. I'll get her to post it, but she remembers it word for word. I don't remember it, but we would do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we would do the pledge to the red, black, and green flag. And all I remember is that. Yeah, Rich Girl, you didn't go to St. Mary's, like you.
Right, I did go to St. Mary's. I did go to St. Mary's, the Catholic school. I don't remember a Black pledge there.
Yes, everybody at St. Mary's knows that, but it would end, and all I remember is at the end you would say "right on." That's all I remember.
No, you remember Good Times. That was Michael on Good Times. You was St. Mary's.
Ain't no way.
I promise you.
That's ain't no right on.
I promise you.
Ain't no St. Mary's Catholic school.
I promise you on everything I love.
Right on.
Every morning.
Right
on.
We would every morning. Every morning we would say the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we would say the Black Pledge. I don't know how the Black Pledge went, but it would end with "right on" like that.
Right on.
You need more receipts. You need the receipts.
Yeah,
I need.
Okay.
I'm gonna need somebody to verify that story.
I'm gonna tag Cerise Logan. If y'all know Cerise Logan, tag her and tell her to type out the Black Pledge. She knows it word for word, and I'm gonna tag all of y'all in it. And then y'all gonna be now like later on in life, we realize that we think that it's something that the teachers at the school created, because we can't find this pledge anywhere online. I've Googled Black Pledge. I've Googled African Pledge of Allegiance. Nothing ever comes up. Right. But so we just came to
right on.
They just right on.
Right on.
They just created it just for us. But it made us feel like we were included. Like, it made us feel good. Like, it made us feel good. So whether it was fake, whether it was something that they just came up with, it made us feel, and it made us proud. Like, it made us proud to be who we were, and to get and to love and have love for the red, the black, and the green. Like, so
they didn't have any white students
No.
No. Now that you say that, they didn't. The whole class was black.
No, we didn't have. Nah.
Imagine them going home to their people. Right on.
Right on.
No, I never.
Sarah, what are you talking about, Sarah? Right on. Right on.
Oh, man.
I never had one white classmate at St. Mary's. Nah.
There's no white teachers either.
Okay.
We had white teachers. No, we had white teachers.
They were right.
Yeah, they were nuns. We had white nun teachers.
They were not. Yeah.
Oh, this is back in the day when they used to pop your hand with the ruler and do all that crazy stuff. This is back in them days. So yeah, like I had like my my pre-kindergarten teacher, my first grade teacher. They were white. Yeah, the principal was white.
And they said right on.
They said right on. I promise you. Yeah, no cap.
That's dope though. That's super dope though. Like that's some old revolutionary stuff. Some that was Black Pantherish.
Right. So I think I'm gonna teach my 16-year-old. She probably ain't gonna be trying to hear it, but I don't know. She's super woke now though, so she might be like she might want to learn. Like she's super woke. Like she want to get out there and protest and.
Tomorrow is Breonna Taylor's birthday as well. So she shares a birthday with Breonna Taylor.
I saw that today. I saw that.
Yeah.
Today. So yeah, man. So any more questions for Dr. Z before we let her go, y'all?
No, this was awesome. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
It was really informative.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
People kind of follow you, get in contact with you.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Yes, so I am on I'm on Twitter and all of that, but I'm an old lady, so I don't really use it. The best way to get in touch with me is through Facebook, and it is Zoe is Unapologetically Black Spencer. You just can type in Zoe Spencer is Unapologetically Black. I'm there. That's where I put out all of my political and social activism stuff. So that's the best place to find me.
Dope. Well, Dr. we look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
We might have to bring you back on because there's a lot of things going on, and we
I'm here.
That we stay tapped in with you. But thank you for checking.
I'm here. Thank you. Thank y'all so much. I enjoyed myself. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Dr. Z.
Okay. Peace.
Peace.
All right, y'all. That was
right on.
Right on.
Like fist.
RG, where's your fist?
Where's your fist?
Everybody should hold up a fist.
So when the white nuns holding up they black fist too?
Yeah, they were like right on.
The white ladies was like right on like this.
I do not recall.
This goes in the category with seeing Michael Jackson right around 757.
No, I can prove this. No.
Every story is getting a little bit unbelievable.
Your stories every week, we're not buying it.
No, I can prove this. All I have to do is go on Facebook.
White nuns were saying a black pledge. You met Michael Jackson riding around military circle, and you met him up against the wall in military circle, trying on some Guess jeans. Like, we don't believe you.
I didn't say.
These stories.
You saw Michael Jackson and Feather and Fin. We don't believe you.
I saw Michael Jackson. I didn't get the chance to actually meet him. Thank you very much. I just
they said right on, and then they gave y'all Feather and Fin.
I don't even know if Feather and Fin was around back then. I don't even know. Was Feather and Fin around in the 80s? RG?
You tell us. You have
RG.
Great.
Tell us.
Huh? Say what now?
I said you were 30 in the 80s. Was Feather and Fin around? You were 32 in 1985.
I went to the prom in my 70s. The Temptations was singing at my prom.
You had David Ruffin hosting your prom.
Oh God!
You should know. All right, so real dope show. So can we close out with a what would you do?
Sure, why not?
All right, we'll start with D. Marie, and then we'll go to Green, and then RG. Tonight's What Would You Do? And you can leave a comment also and let us know. Tonight's What Would You Do? What would you do, D. Marie, Spellman, Fem, Focus? Mm-hmm. What would you do if you found out that your significant other has donated over $10,000 to the re-election campaign of Donald J. Trump? What would you do?
Almost you heard you.
Oh no, I heard you. I was stunned as I was really in the moment thinking about if I had a significant other and they did that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wrap.
Took the words out my mouth.
I really want them to get the money back. I would say you need to get that money back, and once you get that money back, it's over. It's done.
This is somebody that you in love with now. This is somebody that I'm talking about. Y'all,
like you've been with for 10 years.
Like y'all
Okay,
hair.
I not tell nobody and hope it don't get out.
Okay.
Just keep it on the low, babe.
Yes.
Why you do that? You know that ain't right, but we ain't gonna tell nobody.
Okay, all right. Red pill, green.
Oh, it's a wrap.
So
keep it on the low. I know how to love like a woman, so my love is conditional.
Ooh.
Nah,
Say what now?
Wait a
I
minute.
love conditional. Yeah, you do that.
Because
Come
women.
again, say what now?
No, because women. He said. Remember a couple weeks ago, he said women's love is conditional. It's based on what you can do for the woman. Remember he said that.
Right.
That's what he said. So he's saying that he can be conditional,
like a woman, right?
I love like a woman now. That's the best way to love, because that's how they love you. So,
yeah. We're not going to that road tonight.
Right, we're not. He's trying to drag us there, but we're not doing it.
We got a great.
I always fall for it. I fall for it, but not
every single time. He gets you hook, line, and single every time. Reel you right on in. You fall right. We had a. And we don't want the water, but you can't make a fish swim.
Okay.
RG, what would you do?
First, ask why. I need to understand the why first.
Oh, okay. You ask some questions. Okay.
And then we would go from there.
And
if
if
it was
they
because
say,
I support him, and
if you ask why, and they say, "Well, babe, you know what? I feel like all lives matter, and I feel that."
Oh Lord, you just added on extra.
The president. I feel like all lives matter, and Trump is my president. What you gonna do?
That's good. That's good that you feel that way. So I was looking at these apartments in this moving company because we are obviously not compatible, what I thought. If you can agree with him, so
but Trump has business sense, but he does. He's a great businessman,
but not worth spending $10,000 to him. No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
It's the money thing.
It's the money.
You contribute to it. Like,
okay, so it's not about him supporting Trump. It's about he gave 10 racks.
Well, yeah, I would still want to understand why are you supporting him? Like, to support him, you're talking about like Omarosa was doing, like supporting him. Like, that's deep.
Yeah, that ain't like
you cannot hate him, but you don't have to support him.
Right. That 10 racks ain't $10. Like, you can get $10. Right. Okay, I see. 10 racks. That's a used car right there.
That's a lot of money. And then I want to know where you get all that money from that you could just give it away willy-nilly. Like,
and ain't talk to me about
me, because I ain't know we could stroke checks like that. I would have went and got some boobs. I would have done something. Like, you got 10 racks laying around, so it would be a problem.
I agree. I agree with all y'all. We are on the same page. I would. It will be a wrap. Yeah, it ain't nothing to even talk.
What about if your wife told you that she contribute right now? She told you.
What you gonna do? What you gonna do?
You gonna kick her out with the baby? You and that baby gotta go.
No. But like I would want to know why, RG. It would
because I support him and I believe in what
y'all
he said.
just want to know the why for the closure aspect of it.
Here we go.
I wouldn't even. I don't care.
We know Red Pill Green doesn't care.
Right.
It's a little
You
different.
would want to know why.
Green, that's a little different when you're married. You've been married twice. So I think you should know. So I think that I don't think I could be compatible with anyone who is I don't think a Trump supporter can hide their support. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They're radical with it.
Yeah, they with it. Like they always. So if we living in the same house together, at some point something gonna slip out to make you say that you're a Trump supporter. You're gonna be like, hold on, wait, where you get that red hat from? Like
right.
that ain't say MAGA on it. Like, you know what I mean? Like you gonna do something that make me that makes me think. Unless you like Kellyanne Conway and George, right?
Oh, they splitting soon as this is over. I think.
I ain't gonna go into this too long. I think they're actually working together. I think they are the ones who sent those anonymous letters about Trump.
I think she's a mole.
Yes, I do.
That's possible.
I think Kellyanne is the most. I think George Conway is a staunch Republican. He was very instrumental in getting Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. He's a staunch Republican, but I think
he hates Trump
and Kellyanne are very working together to infiltrate that system in some way, shape, or form. It's no way that you could possibly live in the same household, like where she is like all for Trump. She loves Trump. She'll do anything for Trump. And he is just like, on Twitter. And Trump is dissing him like, my wife is not going to let her boss diss her husband.
And no way. It just couldn't happen.
Yeah.
Right. Not gonna happen. So I think
remember when she was campaigning for Ted Cruz, she was dissing Trump.
Right.
So she don't really like the dude.
Right.
She just does her job very well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right. So I think they're working together. And I think as history unfolds, we're going to see. I'm very interested in seeing how that plays out. All right, so let's close this thing out. Any last words from anybody? Y'all want to just say our closing statements and be out, or what? What's up?
I'll go first.
Wait, do you have a new closing statement?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, let's zoom in on Dee Marie. Let's see. This is everybody. Just here we go. The floor is yours.
Right on.
Oh yeah, that's how we carried it, huh? Okay. Okay. That's how we carried it. Okay.
So stupid.
Green is in GQ magazine, man.
Okay.
That lean Green. Do it again, Green. Go back. Do it again. Yes, baby.
Okay.
Why are you posing like that? Like,
you don't know, some single ladies might be looking.
No, he just licked his bottom lip. Did y'all see?
You stay ready. You ain't got to get ready. So stay ready, Green.
Do the lick lip. Do the lick lip. Lip lick. Do it.
Why did he clear his throat like he was about to say something and didn't say a word?
Green's too cool, man.
Okay, would you like to say your statement, sir?
I mean, if you half step, you're gonna get half results, and hard work always pays off. Smash that like button on YouTube and channel, all of that.
Thank you.
I know he pressured us about saying that.
Yes,
right?
And we talked so bad to him that we were already doing
And
it.
we always said Green. We don't need you to tell us.
Right.
I know. It's obvious. It's obvious we wouldn't have said it.
RG, what's the YouTube, RG? So just so y'all know, if y'all ever happen to miss an episode, we are streaming the episodes on YouTube. They'll be up on Fridays whenever RG decides to get them up. Hopefully Fridays, I say 5 o'clock, maybe.
just call you out.
Probably midnight, 11:59 p.m.
No, they'll be up on Friday.
Going into Saturday morning. We'll see. Play by ear.
What is the YouTube?
The YouTube is Talk of the Town Unfiltered.
Talk of the Town Unfiltered. So subscribe.
And that is on all social media platforms. Talk of the Town Unfiltered. You can find us everywhere.
Super shout out to RG for getting all our social media set up. Salute to her. She definitely worked hard on getting us up on Instagram, our Facebook page, our YouTube page. We might do a Twitter. We might not. Who knows? And the email too. If y'all want to send comments, questions, email us at RG.
Talk of the Town Unfiltered.
Talk of the Town Unfiltered at gmail.com.
At gmail.com. All right, cool. RG, go ahead and close this thing up.
Okay, bye. What do you want me to say? Okay,
bye.
Huh?
Okay, never mind. All right, y'all. We out. Be thankful for what you have. It's always someone with less. Tomorrow's never promised. So today, let's all consider ourselves blessed. We'll see y'all next Thursday, 8 o'clock. Tune us in. Turn us up. Peace.
Peace, y'all.